All right, happy Thursday morning to you all. It's a very beautiful day out here. Started off very cloudy, but cleared out quick. My grips are disintegrating every time I touch them. I end up with the stuff on my hands. Yuck, gotta do that. 71 degrees, feels like 76. It is just fabulous out here today. It's humid, but yeah, it's gonna burn off a little bit. It was very thick overcast this morning, like I thought it was gonna rain. It's crazy, but no rain in the forecast. We are going to do the allergy report because it's still high. Yesterday it was 11.1. Today it's 10.9. Yeah, still right there. Woo! Yeah, pollen is kicking here. Everything's covered in pollen. My bike, the cars, the driveway. Yeah, so anyway, I'm headed out. Gotta go to work in the Memorial Park area, kind of, sort of. So, big news in the Honda world. We're finally getting some of the bikes that we've been lusting over out of the European market. Honda just announced a couple of days ago that we are indeed getting the NT1100 DCT here as a consumer vehicle, not just a police vehicle. It is due in May sometime, or at least, you know, orders, I guess, are available to do in May. And I'll go through the prices and all that in a little bit further down the discussion. We are also getting the Hornet 750, which is really cool. And there's a couple of others that are interesting. But those two are really the ones that are on my radar, is the Hornet 750 and the NT1100. So, comparing the specs of those two new bikes, I'm a little underwhelmed at the NT1100 now that I see its very portly curb weight and the price. So the price of the NT1100 is listed at $11,899, if I recall correctly. I'll throw the stuff up here on the screen, with a destination charge of 750 smackaroos. So here in Texas, we pay 6.25% sales tax. And then, you know, of course, there's other add-on fees, you know, registration fees, other stuff. So by the time I would get one of those out the door, it would be just a tick under 14 grand. So it's getting into a pretty expensive bike. Now, the Hornet 750 has a list price of $79.99 with a destination charge of $600. So once all that's said and done, it's going to be still under the 10,000 mark. We're looking at probably $9,400 out the door. So we're looking at a $4,000 price difference between those two. And obviously they're not quite the same machines, you know, they're not in the same class. You got a sport tourer versus a more naked bike. So it's not apples to apples, but when I'm thinking of my riding chores and touring and things that I like to do, they're gonna be probably very similar in their capabilities, their touring range, etc., because the NT1100 is going to get somewhere around, let's just be generous, let's say 50 miles to the gallon on the highway at steady state, because that's roughly what my Rebel gets. Now the NT1100 is a little heavier, it's going to be more streamlined, probably a little more aerodynamic, so it could potentially get better. Ooh, stopped in the main lanes. I'm glad I got over here. Okay, so back to my thoughts on the bikes and which one I would likely prefer. So the NT1100 is a big portly monkey at 549 pounds, 569, don't quote me, I'll put the stats back up here on the screen. Whereas the Hornet is a naked bike, and again, they're not the same animal, they're very different styles of bikes, but the Hornet weighs a whopping 125 pounds less at 422. So it's the weight of this bike with double the horsepower. Now, the NT1100, you know, it's a full-blown sport tourer, much larger bike based on the Africa Twin. But I don't know, I'm a little reticent, a little reluctant to want to just immediately jump out and put my deposit on that thing, because it's going to have a 32.5-inch seat height, like 32.3, something like that. So it's up there. It's about the height of this one, but I lowered this down by an inch in the front clamps just to give me a little bit better reach to the ground, because I'm short. 5.6.5-ish, whatever, 30-inch inseam. So all these bikes that are, 33, 34-inch seats, it's just a little bit too hard to get to the ground. And I don't weigh very much, so I don't squat the bike. So anyway, 32.5-inch seat height, whatever, roughly that, versus the Hornet that's got a lower seat height of 31.5, something like that. So it's a couple inches lower, or inch and change anyway, and just much lower weight. So the reviews that I've watched and read from Europe, where they do have the NT1100, is they say that it's great underway, but it's very heavy. It's top heavy. So around town, with the kind of riding that I do and commuting, all that, that's very noticeable when you're fighting that weight, on slow speed maneuvers and stop and go traffic and all that, crowned road surfaces. It can be a little bit of a handful when you got a bike that's upwards of 550, 600 pounds. And I've dealt with that in the past with my big touring bikes and my, FJ1100, 1200, the full-size bikes. And you get used to it. You do okay. But it's something to be mindful of. So I'm leading toward the Hornet. And I'm trying to keep all my thoughts in order here as I'm riding, and that's hard. So just based on the weight, the out-the-door price, everything else, I think the Hornet is going to be my next bike, because it's lighter, it's more athletic, it's going to be more nimble all the way around, and I think with an adjustable windscreen, hopefully Madstad, on the front of it, that would break the naked bike touring problem, which is wind pressure on your chest, and smooth it out a little bit and make it kind of a multi-purpose mule. Great. I'm still not turned off of the NT1100, but I don't know, at 14 grand out the door and 550 plus pounds, I don't know. I'm just not super enthusiastic. I can get a bike $4,000 less, weighs 120 less pounds. That's a pillion sitting on the back. Come on. Less wind coverage, of course, on the Hornet. No DCT, but the Hornet does have a quick shifter option. And if that bike is based on the Transalp, then it should be an up-down quick shifter, from what I understand. So you're going to get both. And then, of course, the third one in the running that I've talked about many times is the NC750X DCT. I like that bike. I really do. I like the feel of it. It's got a very low center of gravity. The new model from, was it either 23 or 24, when they revamped it a little bit, redid the plastics, they put a narrower seat on it, and it's lower, better for short riders like me. I can get my feet down, and it's not a problem doing the cheap shift to one side, to get further off the bike just to hit the ground. So that's good. I've been looking at that bike. It's considerably more expensive than the Hornet, which is going to be a more powerful bike by far, but they're different personalities. So the NC750, if I recall, is $94.99 or $97.99, and then it's got, I think, a 650 destination fee. So it's going to be expensive getting out the door as well. It'll probably be 11 grand and change. So I'm still HOV. That kind of makes me wonder, what's going to be the better bike. Now, if it's just slow cruising, touring, whatever, I think the NC will probably be the winner for my type of riding. But the two things that turn me off on the NC, one of them is just a major, well, both of them are design flaws or oversights in my opinion, but the biggest one is that bike is already throttled by wire, so why didn't Honda include electronic cruise control on it? It would have been so easy. It's off-the-shelf stuff for them, and it's just a software deal. So I don't understand that. Now, Viridian Cruise, and I think there are a couple of other electronic solutions out there, they have add-ons for it, but they're expensive. I mean, you're looking at $500 or $600, something like that, and then you got to install it yourself or get it installed. So I don't know. I'm not pleased about that. Now, the second big thing with the NC is it's got a relatively small fuel tank on it, 3.6 gallons, 3.8 gallons, something like that. It's not even a 4-gallon tank. So it's not going to have real long legs for touring. Now, granted, the Hornet is kind of where I'm comparing this to. The Hornet's not going to have much more range because it's a higher performance engine and may not be as efficient. The NC750 gets crazy gas mileage, like 60 plus miles to the gallon on the highway. So the Hornet might be a little lower than that. I don't know. I've not looked into those stats, but I don't know. Just bang for the buck, I think the Hornet 750 is going to be the winner. So now comes my decision point. Do I want to commit to buying a new bike this year and just go ahead and put a deposit down, pre-deposit, which I've done on a lot of my first release bikes. I try to get one of the early allotments, especially for stuff that's going to be hard to get because of limited distribution or whatever. And I've got a couple of dealers that I've worked with over the years that know me and don't mind taking my money early and getting me a deal. Well, I say a deal. It's not really a deal. I'm not getting a discount or anything. I'm paying MSRP, but just getting me in the front of the line is nice. So if I do that, I don't know the timing, logistics, all that of what I'll deposit. I may do deposits on both of them, on the NT and on the Hornet. Put a $500 or $1,000 deposit on each of them. That way I've got both, and then just decline the deal on the one that I don't like the feel of. One lane. So I'm going to have to actually sit on the NT and see how wide the seat is, the leg bow, how well I can get to the ground without modifying that suspension right out of the gate. I've had to do that on a lot of my bikes, so I'm not new to that situation or necessarily averse to making those changes right away. I've done it dozens and dozens of times, but it plays into overall price, especially if I've got to get lowering link or dog bone or something for the rear. So luckily the NT has been available in Europe for 2 years now or whatever, so there should be a little bit of aftermarket support when you get a brand new first release bike anywhere, especially here in the States. It takes a little while for the aftermarket to catch up and have the options for suspension mods and add-ons and exhausts and all the toys, the farkles. Okie dokie. Go make some money. Pay for my new toys and food and rent.